You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. The Options Insider Radio Network is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Fidelity's Option Trade Builder tool can help you confidently build an options trade in 3 simple steps. Just choose a strategy, select a contract, and then review the benefits and risks of the trade. Learn more about Option Trade Builder at fidelity.com/options. Options trading entails significant risk and is not appropriate for all investors. Certain complex option strategies carry additional risk. Before trading options, contact Fidelity Investments by calling 800-544-5115 to receive a copy of the characteristics and risks of standardized options. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the option block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tussaw from RCM Asset Management, Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, and Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the option block.
All right, everybody, that rockin' tune means it's time to rock out with the option block. If you're listening live, you'd be like, didn't I just hear that guy? Yes, you did. We're coming off some hot TWIFO action. FIA conference is in town, so schedules are screwy. People are coming hither and yon. People are rotating through the studio. Things are going crazy over here in Chicago this week, but it's fun. We like it. A lot of activity means our schedule is a little bit in flux, but what is not in flux is the option block. Same bat time, same bat channel, so you guys can enjoy it on your devices at your leisure. You want to join us live, noon Central, not Friday, that would be the different show, every Monday and Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern via the Mixlr, or of course you can get it via our mobile app or via everywhere else you get your favorite podcast after the fact. And of course, however you listen, live after the fact, hit us up. We do indeed, on occasion, every full moon or so, like to hear from you guys. I'm joking, of course. Keep those queries coming in. And joining me to help me hold down the fort here and hopefully do some talking, because I could use a little bit of a break. We got the Rock Lobster, and we got, who else? We got Uncle Mike here joining me on the old option block. Let's start off with the Lobster who rocks. Mr. Rock Lobster, how are things, sir? Are you missing the heady days of FIA here in Chicago from your home in the hinterlands of Maine?
I'm missing a huge conference? Oh, my gosh.
I know that makes you sad.
I know, I'm very sad as I look out my window and I think, oh my gosh, I'm so sad I am not at the FIA. However, there are lots of nice people there and they do lots of nice things. So I guess I am sad about that. But other than that, I'm doing okay. But it is very windy in Maine, by the way, very breezy.
Missing your chance to talk like Mexican derivatives and crypto and all these fun things that I know you love so badly.
Yeah, is crypto still alive? I'm just waiting for it to, it seems like it's having a hard time lately for like the last, let's say, year and a half or something.
If you just look at the price action, you might be inclined to think that. If you were sitting where I sit and watching the people rotate through our studio week in after week out and the growing percentage of them that are somehow involved in crypto, you would think the opposite. You think crypto has never been hotter. We just had a guy in here yesterday, yet another new crypto derivatives exchange in the offing. So there is a legion of things going after that crypto space. Maybe that's the top of the bubble. I don't know. Maybe it's just a sign that there's more to come. But talking to a lot of people these days, it's definitely got some legs. Even on the institutional side, it's growing there. So interesting stuff. You know who else loves crypto? Just crypto bull all day long. Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. In fact, I do believe you have most of your clients now, Uncle Mike, especially the retirees, all in on crypto assets, right? 100% invested.
If there were any of them that I wanted to purposely make them lose money, that's probably the first spot where I would go long.
Look at you guys, just non-believers. I'm going to bring you in when I have some of these guys in here who have drunk the Kool-Aid on crypto. I'll let you guys sit in on some of that. And it'll be interesting and or eye-opening and or nauseating for you, depending on maybe all three. So it's interesting stuff. Meanwhile, we got to keep on rolling. Let's do it. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
You know, I take some time out to go to a conference. I take some time out to talk some soybean options and some other fun stuff. And what happens? The equity complex just falls apart in my absence. We're seeing it's a little bit off its lows now. It was off over 1% in most of the major. The S&P and Dow are off about 1.3%. The tech-heavy NASDAQ off over 2%. Kind of bouncing off that a little bit, so only off 1% now in most of the major indices and about 1.8% in the NASDAQ. So there you go. Signs of life, rays of hope. VIX cash at about 1974. You know, Mr. Rock Lobster, I was teasing you the other day because my crystal ball pick came to fruition a lot sooner than even I anticipated. It was almost my exact bullseye for what I picked, but on a Wednesday, I needed it on a Friday. But it was still looking pretty good. You think you were a little nervous. I think you're still sweating a little bit there, aren't you?
Wait a minute. I thought I was just a tick above you on this. On the crystal ball. Wasn't I like 19 or 20 or something like that? Wait a minute.
Yeah, but I was like 1765. I was way south of you.
Yeah, I know, but it's right where I said right now, right?
Well, we're not talking now. We're talking yesterday when I was mocking you. That's what we're talking about. Right now is just a momentary aberration. What counts was when I was mocking you yesterday. That's what counts.
Okay, so you were totally correct yesterday. However, as I recall, the crystal ball contest goes till Friday. So you're basically...
That's why I had to get my mockery in then, because I knew it wouldn't last too long.
So you took an unclosed position and you somehow booked that profit already, is what you're telling me.
I did. I booked a paper
position
profit.
Is open and you spent all the money. Shame on you, Mr. Longo.
I may have borrowed against it to buy crypto, so maybe not a good move. Who knows?
Shame on you, Mr. Longo.
You can't miss an opportunity to mock the Rock Lobster, especially when you're in the bullseye territory like I was this week. I'm still feeling that prediction. I think we got some time for this to settle off. We're already settling off this 20s handle. I'll look here. I'll keep looking for my prediction, Mr. Rock Lobster, while you, what's catching your eye this week, sir? Obviously, VIX, I believe we're in the danger zone, as you put it?
We are. We have been unable to stay in zone 2. We have touched it, but not. So just mostly spending a lot of time in zone 3. Higher vol, market moving 1.5% to 2% a day at least. And it doesn't look like it's going away. Now you've got, Italians want to cut I guess they want a flat tax, and then they want to give all the poor people $1,800 a month because I'm sure that will motivate them to go out and work. So they have that kind of fantasy going in Italy, and I think the yields on their bonds are starting to explode. Hard to believe somebody would actually loan the Italian government money for less than 1% return. Yet that's where it was. And as far as vol goes here, I just think there is overall nervousness, and I think, again, closet opinion is kind of the end of QE. There's no more Bernanke. There's no more Yellen coming in and saying, those two got out of town before the full effects of higher interest rates are coming around. And I think, the market, I even heard something like Trump's going to tell everybody to cut 5% off their budgets to start cutting the deficit. There's got to be some sort of reality check here, and I think the EU has the same issue. These governments are floating in a mountain of debt. I don't know how much good all this did them, to be honest. And I think at this point there is limited options for governments to, do much with a slowdown. So we slow down, try to keep the money flowing overall, but I think and that's why we can't get back to new highs, because nobody and the market it's south, but it's sitting there looking for a reason to rally. And Netflix, the earnings are really good. But it's still, it's a high flyer, so it's tough for it to maintain kind of the lofty levels. So until we start seeing the more bellwether technology, I think, the Qs probably will stay weak, and we see what happens with all that.
Speaking of seeing what happens, just as a quick update, I was at 1765 in the crystal ball, sir, and you were at 2601. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
2601.
It might have been the meat. Was it the rock? Was it the meatball or was it you last week? I lose track. One of you.
I was me last week. I don't know. 2601.
2601 is what you said.
Oh, you know what? We were 24. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so
yeah.
your Alzheimer's is kicking in. And,
oh my
you can't
gosh!
even remember your pick.
Vix was 24, I think. I was going higher. Well, hey, you know what? I have one more day.
I go out on a limb. You mocked me. Now I must turn around and mock you for my pick was far more prescient than you realize, sir. Mr. Uncle Mike, I'll save you from this fray of me just ruthlessly mocking the rock lobster here as his dementia sets in. What's catching your eye this week in the market, sir?
Well, we got a lot of things going on from the macro and even the micro standpoint. Alcoa reported earnings, and they were good, but it appears that their guidance going forward is not going to be so good. They're saying that with the tariffs that they're not going to do as much business. So I think that might be the first of a string of CEOs blaming the tariffs. After all, it's a good thing to blame. Everybody says bad things about them in the media, so why not? Let's blame the tariffs if things aren't going to go look well going forward. So we have that. We have the scandal going on in Saudi Arabia as to what's going on with this money. We did just have a hurricane this last week. It seems like no one's even talking about that anymore. We have interest rate fears. We have tariff fears. We have a lot of things going on right now, so there's a lot of craziness going on in this market, and it's kind of like the perfect storm of all these different things, and we're only down 1.5% on that. So interesting to see, but with that, those are all things with which to be cautious, in my opinion.
What else you have to be cautious about is a live odd block, because that's what you're getting right now. We've been running around cranking away shows, so our eye of Sauron is scanning as we seek. So we're gonna see what we pull up. We're gonna read them on the fly. It's gonna be fun. Let's get to it with a little bit of the old live odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the odd block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we break down what's weird, what's wild, what's catching our eye. We're always scanning, we're always looking, and people always ask me, what do you use for this kind of stuff? We use a lot of tools, we use a lot of different platforms. Day like today, when we're up against it, I like to use a very special tool, one that was custom built for us by a guy who was in here just yesterday in the studio, the Flow Master, Mr. Henry Schwartz from Trade Alert. He does some really cool stuff, and he's built us a very special tool for these exact scenarios. So when I go into my special Trade Alert screen, built just for us, no one else on the planet can get this, just us. And I click on my odd block button, and bam, look at that. It's like a quick, instantaneous Eye of Sauron that scans the entire market for me in one push of a button. And when we do stuff like that, what comes up? But let's start off here with our old friend. Let's see. We'll read live. Maybe this is the div trade. We never know. That's kind of the fun of doing it live. Mr. Rock Lobster, do you have your live analysis pants on, sir?
I do have a live analysis pants. Oh my gosh, VXX is just going up. I'm just looking at things trade as we speak, and this is not looking good for the U.S. equity market right this second. But let's look on what names do you have for us today on the live I guess we can't call it the Schwarzatron, but we can call it the Schwarzometer.
You can call it Schwarzatron right now. Let's go old school. I was talking to a guy last night who we used to work with the old Schwarzatron. So there you go. Everything old is new again. We're going to get to those in a minute, but first let's kick things off where we like to start every week in our old friends, the mystery puts out there in this little company you may have heard of, begins with a T, ends with an A. Good old Tesla, trading today off about 6 handles, about 2.2%. So leading the NASDAQ down to the downside there, right around 265, 266 right now. So 6 handle move. Actually, it's pretty much not that crazy of a day for Tesla out here. They're averaging, let's see, about 250,000 contracts a day. Today doing only 80,000. So, kind of quiet out there in Tesla land. But what catches our eye, is the trade we first discovered well over a year ago. Now, I like to keep an eye on every now and then, see what's lighting up out there. Our mystery puts, the Jan 2019 50s. And right now, they're actually surprisingly quiet. We've been talking this week. They've actually been lighting it up recently, doing some decent paper, including about 5,000 back last week or so in change, and about 7,000 the day before that. So we saw about 12,000 change in hand just in a couple of days. And even just a few sessions ago, we saw about 3,000 going up. Today, a little bit quiet. We saw only about 50 on the tape today, and OI actually coming in a little bit as well, 75,540. It was about 77,000, pushing that too. So people may be deciding to finally close some of these, not many, only about 2,000 of the 70+ thousand that are open. But still, these are trading about 85 cents at 87 right now. But the par puts, the 60 puts are lighting it up today. That's not a strike we see a lot of action in very often. The 60 puts doing 300 and about 60 today. Only 2,500 open on that strike. So maybe someone deciding 50 is a bit too crowded. 60 is where I want my action to be. And the par puts, as always, doing decent paper, about 800 on the tape there. Those have about 48,000 contracts open there, about 270 on those puts. Let me go out a little bit farther here to Jan 2020. And our old friends at 50 puts, kind of quiet out there as well. About only 10 hitting the tape today. Those things are trading right around $5, $4.75 or so. 27,500 open on the tape right now. And same thing with the par put. So Mr. Rock Lobster, a somewhat rare quiet day in the far out of the money downside in Tesla. Does that put a smile or a sad face on your face, sir?
It puts an interest. I think, it's one of those things where I think people are starting to get a little full. But there is more. The open interest is growing on, those par puts. There's still 800 contracts on them. That's not nothing. So there's a little bit of action on those things. So as far as that goes, what you've noticed is there hasn't been a lot of closing action, right? So, 50,000, 75,000, all these, they haven't taken a ton of volume off the table, even when it was, even when some of the numbers on these things got really, really high. So you look at that and you go, well, I find that very interesting from that point of view. So it doesn't seem like it's going away. It looks, all these bankers are finding all kinds of ways to finance the next tranche of Tesla production, and life will go on. I don't know where the stock will be, but Elon Musk will probably persevere as he has done so far.
Speaking of persevering, we're going to persevere with this live read on the option block, and our first odd block hit comes in GE, and it's a big one. There's some big size going up today in GE. GE, not usually the most rock'em sock'em name that we talk about on the odd block, at least. Does decent paper. Does actually a little bit shy of Tesla. About 240,000 contracts a day. So decent paper volume overall. Today doing 850,000 contracts. About 10-to-1 puts over calls, listeners. That's where we're going to draw our eye all the way out to Jan, listeners. That's where the put action is. You can call it a put palooza, if you will, if you like those technical terms. What caught our eye was actually a big block of the Jan 11 puts going up for 42 cents on the bid, 60,500 times. These things were 42 cents a bid out, and they got hit for 60,000 of them, so a pretty firm bid there. All opening because there's only 32,000. It's decent OI, but it's not enough to cover that. So 32,000 going, but that's not all. That's what our Eye of Sauron triggered. But you start digging around on GE, you'll see that a lot of strikes are lighting it up out there to the tune of the 12 puts. Also lighting it up, nearly 100,000 on the tape today, 98,861. That's opening as well because there's 50,000 open on that strike. And that's not enough for you. Also, the 10 puts. Doing a little dance here to the tune of 93,000 going up on that strike. And surprise, surprise, 99,000 of those open as well. So we got a little bit of funkiness, I think you can say, Mr. Rock Lobster, going up in these puts. The Jan 11 puts did not go up marked spread or anything along those lines, but clearly there is other paper in and around that realm, which is clearly related in and of that sense. And interestingly enough, all of this is probably opening with the possible exception of the 10 puts, which could potentially be closing. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, we're faced with a multitude of interesting scenarios out here. Could be someone deciding, you know what, the 10 puts, maybe they're a little bit bridged too far. I want to close those and roll them up in the same month to the 12 puts, which would be weird. It could also be someone reestablishing as a completely opening size vertical with the exact same amount of OIs on the 10 put strike, which also would be weird, hence the odd block. Or it could be someone doing a funky, almost kind of ratio fly there with OI that's kind of lining up a lot on some of the strikes. So it's got weird across the board. Before you answer, I'll give you another second to ponder that as we go into our chart and look at a year past and see what's been going on in GE that may precipitate such paper. And a year ago, this name was trading about double where it is right now. It was trading right around $24. So it's come off quite a bit. Not exactly a banner year here for GE. Right now it's hovering right around, not quite the low end of the range. That was about 1080, but well off its highs, clearly. So Mr. Rock Lobster, interesting to have this name that's been kind of on the downside for quite a bit, having such a massive, to use a technical term, put palooza today. What's your spidey sense telling you on here? You think if they're closing, they usually tend to roll to a different month, so that would be weird. All sorts of weirdness. What's your spidey sense telling you about this one?
It's how and why they're really. Remember when they sold off GE when they changed CEO and stuff, or this was actually before they said things weren't going to be good. I have a little position in here left. I've been slowly unwinding it, and I actually just dumped some 12 puts today. So this is an odd one because I think somebody is trying to look at sort of a turnaround play, but what is this? It's like 9, 10, 20 million shares, I guess. It's a chunk of stock. It feels like somebody is trying to roll and sell like a juicier put. That's what it feels like, but the vol is up a little bit. So yeah, generally I go with where the vol is, and it looks like there's been a little bit of expansion in the vol here, because I was trying to sell those 12 puts for 75 cents, and the stock was about here, and now they're trading 78.79. So Spidey sense says somebody is still buying premium in here to January. We've got earnings coming out in about a week, I think. So it could be kind of a, I don't know what kind of number they're looking at, because GE has been painting the tape with just such bad news the whole time. Is it a buyer of puts in stock? So mostly just overall, it's been premium buying in here. And I look at it and I say it still kind of smells like premium buying, to be honest, just looking at the performance of volatility in those strikes. So somebody wants the juice in there, even though it's a $12 stock. And I don't think that's going away. Of course, I have the closet theory on this, is that Warren Buffett's last act as chairman will be just to buy GE. He'll just keep collecting the stock, and then he'll just buy the whole company, and Berkshire Hathaway will own General Electric. So a massive change from 50 years ago, probably, when he started Berkshire Hathaway. But he'll just add GE as a little portfolio company in all of his companies. I think, let's see, what is the market cap on this? It's only $100 billion. I think he has that in cash.
Pocket change. He could do that tomorrow.
So he could if he so chooses. If he so chooses
to do such a thing. And I think what I hear, if I'm reading between the lines there, is that also about 30,000 of these hundreds of thousands of puts, about 30,000 of that is you and Carmen Line. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Yeah, I wish. No, it's not, but it could. One day, if we ever branch out into equities, I'm sure we'll be doing something like this. But as of right now, sad to say that it is not, but it still looks like somebody is. It feels like they're rolling a put up. They're dumping their 10s and they're buying some of that upper strike stuff. So that at least because of all that, just a massive paper, it sort of looks like that. We'll see what the Flowmaster says, but that's what the paper feels like on this.
Flowmaster might be flying. I'm not sure if he's listening in there alive. I think he's heading back to NYC after his trip out here. But okay, we're going to keep on rolling. Let's get on here. Our Eye of Sauron lands next on our old friend Activision. I used to love this thing. This thing has moved quite a bit since when I used to trade at Act. It used to be in that 14 to 20 handle range that we used to like so much. It was a reliable premium right, and you could do a lot of risk reversals and things out there that were great. These days, it's trading $72, almost $73. So a quite different name from a few years back when I used to trade this name pretty actively here. This is the name that does, by the way, ticker symbol, of course, ATVI. This one averaging about 23,000 contracts a day. Today doing 61,000. Pretty equal, actually, to puts and calls, which is interesting, given the fact that this thing is rocking and rolling. Let me just see here. I don't think earnings, unless they pre-announce, earnings are supposed to be, actually, I don't have a date here on earnings. So maybe they have got some bad news coming out today, obviously, because they're off $5.44, or about 7% here on this name. And let's look here at what's lighting it up. It is the Nove 65 puts. Looks like we got perhaps a crushing sale. Someone putting them up well through the bid, going up to about 10,000 times for $1.02. Actually on splits, so some funky prices there, but 1.02 there at a time when the bid was 118. So that's all sorts of weird going up on the MyX, who also was in here just yesterday talking about their new Volatility product. So that's hitting the network pretty soon as well. A new VIX competitor finally getting approved by the SEC. They have earnings actually on the 8th here. So maybe they pre-announced, or maybe they're just taking it on the chin with some other news here. But either way, Activision obviously makes a lot of games out there, Activision Blizzard, so they make a lot of the big games. I think Call of Duty's came out, maybe Call of Duty not lighting up the world as people thought. Either way, stock taking it on the chin. This print, though, is kind of funky, which is worth us investigating a little more. As we're doing that, let's look at the year that's been here in Activision. A year ago, it was trading $62. So about 10 handles south of where it is right now. It peaked recently at about 85 back at just a couple weeks ago, beginning of October. And now it's kind of taken on the chin again down to 72. So it's kind of been all over the place over the course of the past year. Mr. Rocklopsy, usually on a day like this, you come in, the stock's selling off. What happens? These puts get bid, right? They get bid really out of control. And if you have those bullets in your gun, you take your time and you blast them out at the right moment. And you're a happy camper because someone's paying some ridiculous vol levels for those puts that you just happen to have in your back pocket, and you're willing to sell to him for a premium. You don't usually see the opposite, which is these things going up aggressively through the bid, which makes me think this is probably some weird print, and this guy might have been buying it and just went up late, because if this thing's selling off, he doesn't need to scramble to sell them. I think he's got many people lining up to buy Nove 65 puts right now, probably, if he wants to sell them to him. So I don't know. What does your spidey sense tell you on this one, sir?
This one just looks like they're blasting away. I'd like the line in the sand put. They're going to take the 65s. So this to me just looks like line in the sand, trying to get 10,000 puts sold, but they bid the vol right up and through where he sold them. So as with a lot of put sales, the first sale usually doesn't look very good, and then the market kind of keeps tanking because it's pretty hard to be a bottom picker selling puts. But, they do have 7 handles to go, and I think the earnings don't come out. I thought this was a late earnings cycle underlying. So, yeah, so the next earnings is going, well, no, it is in the earnings cycle, early 11. So the only thing I would say is somebody is taking a flyer on the earnings. So for all people that, do trade earnings stocks, maybe they just think that this is a good opportunity to let some of these puts go, and just and draw their line in the sand at $65. So that's kind of what it feels like.
I've been handed some breaking news here by our crack production team. They're on it. Gotta love it. They're finding all this stuff for me. They looked in, and Activision, it is through Call of Duty. I thought it was. They just came out with their Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, which is one of the big sellers of the year. Usually it hit more than $500 million in the first 3 days. But apparently the shares were tanking around confusion over what the total sales were because they only released digital day one sales, not the full through retail and everything. So people may have been mistakenly crushing it, in which case our friend here coming in and hitting a bit on these puts maybe makes a little bit more sense. He thinks this is overdone, and he thinks this thing's going to turn around quite a bit. Obviously, he maybe got a little bit early there. Those puts still getting a little bit of life on them. But that makes a little bit more sense. If those numbers were kind of wrong, that's a big sell-off for a wrong number. So Activision may want to get ahead of that one, perhaps have their investor relation teams get out there. But yeah, the stock's getting crushed off people are at least saying here is an incorrect day one sales number. And the actual number actually did quite a bit. So yeah, interesting stuff. If you're buying what they're selling there, then maybe selling some puts makes a lot of sense because this thing could turn around. All right, and last up here on the old odd block, or live odd block, on the fly odd block, is a newcomer, I believe, to the odd block. If it's not, we haven't talked about it in quite some time. This is KeyCorp Inc., ticker symbol Key. KEY, appropriately enough. Trading today, $18.21, off about $0.50 or about nearly 3%. If you're wondering what they are, this is a bank holding company. So as sexy as they come. This name does about 3,200 contracts a day. Today doing about 23, almost 24,000. About 8-to-1 calls over puts. Let's see where our Eye of Sauron draws us next here. We're going out to the weeklies, listeners. Going out to the Nove, expiring on the 2nd. What first caught our eye is about 10,000 of the 19.5 calls going up for 12 cents. Looks like paper buying those. They're pretty tight, though. They're 11 at 12, so those kind of tight executions can be misleading. Going up nearly 10,000 times, 9,500. Also worth noting that the 19s traded today as well, also expiring on the 2nd there in November, about 5,200 times. No real OI to speak of on the 19.5s, but 5,500 on the 19th. So perhaps we're getting a little bit of the old house money roll, Mr. Rock Lobster, which is usually a sign. Let me see really quickly if I can pull up the 19 to see when they were opened. Ah, yes. They were opened just on the 16th, just a few sessions ago, about 5,400 times for when they were trading about 25 to 35 cents. They're going up for 20 cents right now, 15 to 20. So maybe someone deciding, doesn't look like it's a house money roll. It doesn't look like he did too well on that end. So maybe he's just deciding discretion is a better part of valor. Maybe he's going to roll those out while he can and roll them up to a higher strike on the 19.5. Either way, these did not go up mark spread, but it has the whiff of related paper. It looks like a duck. It smells like a duck. Usually is a duck. Looks like, so perhaps legging into a little bit of 1x2 on a higher strike. Let's go look at a chart here on Key and see if that makes any sense. Yeah, a year ago, this thing was trading about almost exactly where it is right now, right around 1830. And then it got as high as about 22.5 back in March. And then it kind of has been vacillating between that, and it got as about 21.5 recently. Then now we're on the tail end of this pretty sharp sell-off, off about 3-4 handles here in the last month or so. So things not looking too great for Key. Maybe this guy, kind of like our other friend, selling puts because he thinks the sell-off's overdone. Maybe he thinks this sell-off's overdone as well. And he's loading up on calls. He's just looking, he was a little bit wrong. But, it's kind of weird, Mr. Rock Lobster, if he was indeed wrong on these calls. And again, I don't have the exact print on what price they went up back a couple of sessions ago. I'll have to go look maybe while you're talking. But if he's wrong, it'd be weird for him to buy a farther out of the money call 2x and not give himself a little bit more time, at least a week, right? Usually you're off on timing, right? So you want to give yourself a little bit more time. So this one's all sorts of weird, which makes it fun for the odd block. What's your spidey sense telling you, sir?
I'm looking at this, and this is a funky bunch of call purchasing in Key, don't you?
I think it qualifies as a funky bunch. This is the funky bunch. That could be the name of the show today, the funky bunch.
It is, and I'm looking at it like, so earnings. I believe they've got earnings. They've the 13th, so they've already put them out, right? 10/8. Oh no, they've got. So I'm just looking at trying to get the earnings date squared away, and I think the earnings have come out today, and then people are buying these into looking for a lift. So I assume that they're going to get the lift they want at some point, and they're looking past they're just looking past today and like, okay, well, maybe we'll make some money on these. But it's kind of a slow-moving bank stock, so it's hard to. You usually don't buy options in a kind of a plotty bank stock, but it could work like anything. We've seen stranger things work, but 19 and 19.5, so you're trading 19 over 12. It's saying bye. So maybe they went to the Mike Tusaw school of buying put stupid or call stupids or something like that. But it does look like a very healthy purchase, and as of right now, it's not looking like a great purchase.
No.
Right? This morning, everything
I think we can agree on that one. Yes.
So, for a stock like Key to move $1.50 is, unless somebody buys it out, it's a, maybe they're rolling some of that volume down, Mark. I'm not quite sure, but at least as of right now, they're not getting a tremendous amount of love on those call purchases.
No call love for the old Key party here, and key options here. Yeah, Funky. This is why we like to do them live. Sometimes you get to hear us chew it over live here on the show. We're seeing these for the first time ourselves, so it's kind of fun. If you guys have some thoughts on the paper, what's driving it, maybe Activision, maybe Key, maybe some other names, hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. Speaking of which, let's do that right now with a little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block. You guys ask us questions. Occasionally, we turn the tables on you guys. We like to do that via the old Twitter machine. Ask you guys a question of the week. This week, it's kind of a similar theme of what I was mocking the Rock Lobster for earlier. Breaking out your crystal ball for a little bit of VIX prediction love. We do it every week. It's hard. Give you guys a chance to play along, too. And this week we said, every volatility is on everybody's mind. It's earnings season. This is the beginning of the week, obviously, so we had no idea what was in store for us. We said, will earnings season add to the growing storm, or will cooler heads prevail? Quite simply, where do you think VIX is going to close this Friday? We made it easy for you. We have to do it by 1 p.m. Central. You guys have to do it just on the close. So, we made it even easier for you guys. And yet still, our audience is kind of all over the place, which is kind of interesting. Right now, the lion's share are with me. They're in the 17 to 18.99 range with about 28%, but it is almost evenly split across the board. Number 2 is actually even lower, south of 17, they say, with 26%. 25% saying right about where it was when we started the poll in the 19 to 22 range, and 21% saying higher, north of 22. So pretty much it's a pick 'em. I know where I know where I picked, and the lion's share of you are going with me. So therefore, Mr. Rock Lobster, I shall say another huzzah to you, sir, because our audience clearly sides with me over you by a significant margin.
So again, this is once again, as VIX is ticking up as we speak, trading 21. I think it is now, it's almost 50-50. And all the lemmings can side with you, and if they don't want to side with me, that is fine. But I will take the diss and just move on. It's okay. I get it. You're the host of the show. Everybody likes you. Blah 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 blah. It's your show. Blah blah blah.
Check out my TVIX email sometime if you want to see how much everybody loves me.
I know.
Remember, he's the one who called it a crappy burger stand. Send him your hate mail.
Yeah, didn't they? And then somebody said they blocked us or they untweeted us or something.
See, I told you. You dare to malign the TVIX, sir. They come out. The daggers come out.
Oh, my gosh. Right. So obviously on a today like today, TVIX, woohoo, it's an awesome product. And it's making everybody a lot of money, and they're very happy. Yes. Very happy.
It's a delicious burger stand today. All right. Uncle Mike's been resting long enough. Let's get him on here. First off, you unfairly malign him, say he loves call stupids, which we know he only likes some call stupid, not all call stupids. But I would not let you unfairly. He should take umbrage at that. Mr. Uncle Mike, let's give you a chance to dance here with our first question here. This comes from N45. Maybe he's a secret agent. Who knows? Asking, interesting question. When is it not worth closing out losing long options positions and just keep them on as lottery ticket flyers? Is it a nickel? Interesting. He wants to know that rule of thumb. Uncle Mike, I think you kind of just touched on this on your strategy block earlier this week. I think you said you had some upside calls that went against you and you had them still on. So what do you want to say here for our friend, Mr. N45? Do you have a rule of thumb, or is it like a case-by-case basis?
I would say it's a case-by-case basis. So let's go with case number one. Let's say that a vertical spread goes your way, and the long option on the vertical spread is maybe worth a penny, and you close out the short option for the profit target that you had. If that's the case, if it's like a penny, then I'd leave it on. And I've actually had situations to where I've had, after I've already moved on from the trade, to where the stock goes the other way, and I've ended up making a really nice amount of cash from the long leg of it. Now, it's happened maybe, I think, 2 or 3 times in 15 years, so don't count on that. But if you are going to do something like that, usually it's a penny, or if it's something to where I figure, okay, if I can get out of this for a penny, but with a commission, this really isn't going to be worth it. Sometimes I'll take a shot, but typically, if I have a long option go against me, for example, when we were rallying above the 290 level in SPY, I made the decision that, okay, volatility is low, and in my opinion, at the time it was. So I still want to be a part of this rally, but I've really had a nice run going up to 290. So I got into the 303 call for November. And I would say that put the account that I had that with, or the allocation that I had that with, in probably, maybe 95% cash. And the reason that I did that was that, okay, if this rally continues, I'll still be a part of it in some way, because the 303 call, I think I bought for $1 or something like that. But if the market goes down, it's not really going to hurt that bad. And the market's gone down, and by gosh, I still have that 303 call. It might be worth a penny right now, because at this stage, it really doesn't matter. The way with which I managed risk was not having a lot of money on the table in the first place, so that way I could do it. Now, let's say similar situation, but I decided I was more bullish, and I wanted to have a much greater amount of deltas on the table, meaning I would have bought the 285 or the 290 call. At that stage, I'd have been out long before a nickel. I'd have been out maybe when it was down, the option itself was down maybe 20, 30%. I don't know. It's hard to say. But I'd have been out long before it happened, because I would have to manage risk much tighter because I have more money on the table. So I would say, for me, if I don't have a lot of money on the table in the first place, take a shot. Hang on to it. It's not really going to hurt that much more by leaving it on for a little bit longer. But if I have a greater amount of money on the table, at that stage, you need to have your risk management in place, meaning as soon as the value of the option goes down to a certain level, get out of it. So that way you don't have to wait for it to go to a nickel and say, ooh, should I get in or should I get out? And you're worried if you should take the $100 after a $25,000 loss.
Mr. Rock Lobster, do you guys have a rule of thumb that you use for your mentees in the pit chat, sir?
Rule on basing on taking losses?
Well, if like he's asking, you buy your call option. In this case, he's asking about calls, and it goes against you. What's the point where you close it out? Do you let it go to nickel? Do you let it? At what point is it just not worth closing and you let it fly? I think that's where he wants to. What point is it not worth closing out? Just keep them on as lottery ticket flyers.
Oh wow! Oh, so basically, you just let everything go.
Yeah, basically, it's all gone. Yeah.
I mean, with a long, I don't buy a whole lot of naked long contracts. They're always hedged somehow. So I guess my answer to that is, when do you forget about it? I mean, they're down to, and once they're down to, I don't know, $25 or something, because I don't manage a long option like that. So that's kind of a tough one for me to answer. What I do is I have a stop point. And I usually stop a long call out with some put somewhere. So, and that would be my level. But, if you own a call and it's lost 90% of its value, I mean, at that point, why bother closing it? You're just not much to lose anymore. So I guess the point would be at the point that you figure I don't have much to lose anymore, so I might as well just keep it. So, but I think really, if you're buying options, you should have a pretty tight stop number on them, especially if they're short term, because they can go to zero so fast. You you have to be much more careful than you think on that premium, or you go by the 1% rule, so you don't spend more than 1% of whatever your trading equity is on any position, and then you don't care. You just hold it till the end. That way, that one trade is not going to cost you a whole lot more than another. So those are the other ways I would consider thinking about that.
All right, let's see here. I got our old buddy Mark Brandt here listening in the chat. He says, just get the crash over with. Why drag it out for years? Yeah, I'm kind of with you. If you listen to the Twifo show, we said earlier, it doesn't seem like we're in that mode, though. We were breaking down the skew. Remember in the S&P and NASDAQ and things, remember the cool quick skew tools that Nick and his team have over there on the Quick Strike is a great place to go to do this kind of analysis. And you think if we were at that point, if we were at the crash, if people were planning for that, then we would see that reflected in the skew and the equities. And we're not seeing that, panic skew. We're kind of just, as we're selling off here, we're kind of just moving along the skew curve. And usually if things are panic, all hell in the high water is hitting, you're going to see that skew curve jump. You're going to move. It's going to be all kinds of crazy. And we're not really at that point yet. So that's kind of interesting. I'm kind of with you. If it's going to happen, let it happen. These little kind of nickel and diming cuts are more annoying over time. But it doesn't seem like we're at that point yet. So it doesn't seem like he also mentions here, I'll be nice. I'll let him have a couple. He also mentions Snap. He likes selling Snap puts. He says he sold the Snap 41-day $7 puts for 81 cents. Yeah, they're looking pretty good. If I'm looking here, those are probably look like those are the November 23rd ones. They probably did it a few days ago. Those are still at about 81 cents right now. So the stock sold off, but they're still holding pretty good, getting a little bit of decay in your way. I think you've written in before. I think it doesn't sound like you're a fan of, or you think it doesn't sound like you're a fan of this sell-off in Snap. I think we're going to hold here at this 7 strike. Yeah, you're right. Snap has kind of been one of these interesting ones. Everyone was super excited when it listed. Everyone wanted to trade the options on it. And it did a decent paper in the beginning. It had some days of 400 some odd thousand back in almost 500,000 contracts back in November of last year. So almost exactly a year ago on November 8th. And that's when it had a pretty big move that day around earnings. And ever since then, it's kind of, at least from an options perspective, hasn't really lit up the tape. Right now, it's averaging about 112,000 contracts a day. Doing a little bit more than that today, about 122,000 so far. Puts leading the dance about 4-1 out here. So yet another grip. I remember everyone was super excited about Snap, and then as it's kind of meandered its way down to nothing, we've seen less and less interest from the audience in Snap. But yeah, it sounds like those puts are still. Oh, he's got one more here. He says he bought the 2020. He's been listening to the show too much. He says he bought the Tesla Jan 2020 10 puts for $1. So you're the one. You're the guy who's trading all these things. It's just today. So I guess we've led him to the dark side. Mr. Rock Lobster, I blame you for that. You made him buy those puts.
No, now I'm getting blamed for it.
Hoping to buy the 10 puts for $1 because those are at 60 cents right now. Hopefully you bought the 15s maybe.
What's funny is actually Tesla's holding up relatively well today. I mean, if you're just looking at everything else that's kind of getting smacked around a little bit, it's not doing too bad considering. So it's one of those things where they're either going to pay or not. I don't know. It's an oddball one, I have to say. Which, of course, why it's on the odd block.
Oh, he said June, not Jan. I'm sorry. June are trading $1. Yes, he's correct. So he bought a little bit more time. He went all the way out to June 2020. So there you go. You got a coin flip whether Tesla's at 10 by June 2020. It could be at 500, could be at 10. You don't know. It's one of those binary names. If Elon goes off the reservation again, all bets are off. Speaking of all bets are off for us because it's coming up to our final segment. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, let's go around the block where we look at what we're watching for the rest of this week into the old weekend. I think it's pretty fair to say we're all kind of watching what the heck's going on this continued weird macro front. We sell off, we rally, we sell off, we rally. Today we're in the sell-off mode. Again, most of the major indices, S&P off nearly 2% now. So As we said, the sell-off was mitigating at the top of the show. Now it's exacerbating itself. VIX cash up nearly 4 handles, right around 21.25. Our old buddy VXX, CLL, 35.34. So way up there, up nearly 3 handles on the day. All those people talking about who buys VXX calls. Well, for a day like today, it's not the worst thing. Mr. Uncle Mike, we'll start with you, sir. What is on your radar for the rest of the week?
Well, I'm kind of looking at the Sebastian predicted market. On Monday's show, market said that he believed that there was going to be one more big sell-off on this downturn, and then at that stage would be the time to consider buying. So not sure if he's talked about that with you or not, Andrew, but definitely going to be watching to see if the Sebastian sell-off, we can call this today, holds true to be the point of being a buyer. So with that being said, I agree, Mark. I think it's time to watch a lot of the big hubbub of all the different things that are going on from a macro standpoint. This is very macro, but fear not, we do have earnings coming up in a lot of ways over the course of the next few weeks. So there's a lot going on. And we have a midterm election coming up. So there's a lot of uncertainty that's going on in this marketplace, and if you can't find watching this market exciting and you're an investor or a trader, then there's something wrong with you.
Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you, sir. What is on your radar? Are we in the danger zone yet for VIX, sir?
Well, we're at the very top of zone 3 now. So we started this morning. Of course, your prediction looked very good this morning. Now my prediction is starting to look a little better, but
you're still 5 handles off. So
let's
put it in context. It's less embarrassing than it was a day ago. Yes,
it's definitely less embarrassing. So anyway, as far as this goes, look for I'm just going to see more of the same. I think we've got some payroll numbers or something coming out. But as right now, it's just like things are going to keep selling off here till the end of the day. So that will not surprise me at all.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it, unfortunately, for this episode of the old Option Block. Hopefully we kept you engaged for a couple hours here. A lot of shows. Not as many interviews coming into the studio today. We did a bunch yesterday because I have to run on down to the old conference in a few minutes and do my rounds down there before it winds up for the week. But before we wind up here, let me go back around the horn one final time. Well, let's start with Uncle Mike, sir. If I'm intrigued by all your mad love for crypto and I want to go long a ton of crypto, where should I go? What should I do?
Don't call me if you want to go long a ton of crypto unless you want to be mocked. But if you are looking for a financial advisor who kind of enjoys markets like this and views them as opportunities, feel free to give me a call at 312-212-3531 or visit my website at stcharleswealth.com or check me out on Facebook. I'll be more than happy to talk with anyone. We will be having events coming up in the St. Charles area in the next few weeks. More to come on that in the shows to come.
Mr. Rock Lobster, if I'm intrigued by all this VIX zones and all this other fun stuff, where should I go? What should I do?
Come to optionpit.com. You can pick up VIX Made Easy, VXX Made Easy, my vol newsletter. Come into our chat room, learn a bunch of stuff, and put some learning on. What the heck?
Put some learning on optionpit.com to learn more. And on behalf of the Rock Lobster, Uncle Mike, and indeed myself, thank all of you for downloading, streaming, subscribing, sending in such great questions and comments and pearls of wisdom and your trade ideas, all that fun stuff. We love it all. Keep it coming. And if you want to talk VIX and VIX zones and all that fun, you want to just join me in mocking the Rock Lobster and come back here, same bad time tomorrow for some vol views. We'll see who's right. We'll see if it was me or if it was the Rock Lobster. Spoiler alert, it's probably me. We'll see tomorrow. Join us then. Otherwise, we'll see you next week for more of the Option Block.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.